President Trump cruises to victory with a record-breaking Republican turnout.
Trump got more total votes than Obama got as an incumbent.
Republican turnout operation in Texas is extraordinary.
Complete domination.
Receiving more primary votes than any sitting president.
We're winning. We're winning all over.
We had record turnout for an incumbent president.
The Republican Party has never been unified like it is now.
Turnout was also huge for Donald Trump.
President Trump celebrating a record-breaking victory.
It's not even a party, it's a movement.
More than President Obama had by a wide margin.
Let's realize how good Donald Trump's political operation is.
To all Americans tonight, I'm with you, the American people. I am with you, I will fight for you, and I will win for you. And we are going to keep America great.
Good evening and welcome to our very first episode of Trump War Room Weekly. This will be our part of our 7 days a week programming as we try to keep you connected to the Trump campaign as everyone is dealing with the coronavirus and the social distancing that the whole nation is going through. I'm joined tonight by two very important people on the Trump campaign. Senior advisor to the campaign, Katrina Pearson. Katrina, thank you very much for being with us tonight. And also senior advisor for strategic communications, Mercedes Schlapp. Mercy, likewise, good to see you.
Good to see you. I mean, I'm missing both of you. I don't get to see you all in person right now.
I know, it's been a while, a couple of weeks now, at least 3 weeks at least, I think. We're going to talk tonight about a lot of things and things as they relate to the coronavirus, certainly. But there are going to be a lot of issues that we talk about throughout the course of this campaign that we've already talked about before the virus situation sort of encompassed everything. And a lot of those issues do in some ways have to do with the coronavirus situation that we have here. But a lot of them are issues that stand on their own. And we're going to start with one of those tonight because it's going to be very important for voters to understand the real differences between President Trump and his likely opponent, Joe Biden. And the first of those is going to be on the energy policy. That's what we're going to talk about here tonight. And Joe Biden is a guy who is adhering to the wishes of the extreme left. And he has already called for the enactment of the Green New Deal if there is more rounds of relief legislation for the coronavirus as Congress considers those moving forward. So here's a guy who has picked this time when Americans are really facing economic danger to enact the economy strangling, job killing Green New Deal. Here's Joe Biden recently. Let's take a listen to him.
Vice President Biden, I'd like to ask you, 3 consecutive American presidents have enjoyed stints of explosive economic growth due to a boom in oil and natural gas production. As president, would you be willing to sacrifice some of that growth, even knowing potentially that it could displace thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of blue-collar workers in the interest of transitioning to that greener economy?
The answer is yes. They want to do the same thing I want to do. They want to phase out fossil fuels, and we're going to phase out fossil fuels.
That's why not another new coal plant will be built. I did that while you were watching. Number one. Number two, thirdly, we're going to have an opportunity, I believe, in the next round here to use my green economy, my Green Deal.
And there you have it. As Democrats like to say, never let a good crisis go to waste. Joe Biden wants to enact the job-killing Green New Deal right now, which obviously is a terrible idea. Let's start with Katrina. Katrina, what do you say to that?
Well, of course. I mean, climate change, is their religion. If you haven't heard, Tim, the world's going to end in 12 years if we don't do something about it. Yeah. And it's just really sad because President Trump has been correcting all of the mistakes of the previous administrations, including the one that Joe Biden has been a part of, to put Americans first. And they just don't even hide it anymore. They don't care about the American people. They just want power. They want power over the people. They want to create their own kingdoms. While President Trump is trying to move America forward, which he has, they're trying to continue, mentioned, with the crisis we're facing right now economically. he's still saying he wants to take drastic measures to implement this plan that is undeniable job killer and would really, truly destroy our country.
Yeah, as part of the Green New Deal, of course, that would completely eliminate the fossil fuel industry. That's oil, coal, and natural gas. And I don't know if people who are sitting at home right now facing the coronavirus social distancing guidelines care about the government building windmills at the moment, Mercy. But it doesn't seem like Joe Biden is exactly knowing what people are worried about right now, is it?
What are you talking about, Tim? I just ordered you a windmill. It's going to show up in your front porch by Monday morning. I mean, let's be real here. Let's be real. The idea is that everyone says how Biden is the ultimate moderate for the Democrat Party. Well, he's obviously sounding more like Bernie Sanders, more like AOC. His focus is to appease a liberal base. It's not about creating jobs for Americans. I mean, when you go and break this down in terms of the Green New Deal, not only would it be incredibly costly for taxpayers, but you're talking about $75,000 it would cost per household to even try to pay for this Green New Deal. Let me tell you, and Nancy Pelosi tried to put elements of the Green New Deal into the economic stimulus package. That was a big mistake. It just shows you that their obsession with really trying to control how we build our energy industry is going to fall flat. We need these jobs in the energy industry. It is because of President Trump, and that is the contrast, that we have affordable energy policy, affordable electricity, affordable costs for Americans to be able to deal with like their cost of electricity. There's no question about that. And then secondly, we're also looking at the fact that President Trump has made America energy independent. It is because of him that we're the largest exporter of natural gas. Guess who wants to eliminate fracking? Joe Biden. It's all extreme issues by Joe Biden when it comes to anything related to the climate.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I'd love to know how Joe Biden's going to try to sell those policies across very important states.
Think about how detached and tone deaf it is for the Democrats, especially Joe Biden talking about this still, how detached it is to tell Americans to eliminate and not even a replacement. Tell that to the folks in New Hampshire, where 80% of their households depend on fossil fuels to heat their homes. Tell that to the people of Texas who have to drive for a living. I mean, this is just absolutely absurd and tone deaf. And again, that just goes to show you that the Democrats and Joe Biden don't care about anything or anyone but themselves.
Yeah, I'd like to know how he's going to try to sell that plan to eliminate the natural gas industry in a state like Pennsylvania, where there are so many jobs and so many billions of dollars inserted into the state economy there every single year would depend on that. And so thankfully, though, we know that we have a president in office right now, President Trump, who is a champion of the American energy industry and the 10 million jobs that go along with the fossil fuel industry. And he's got America as the leading energy producer in the world. And he is, I would say, not shy about promoting that. Here's the president.
And we have unleashed a revolution in American energy. The United States is now the #1 producer of oil and natural gas anywhere in the world. And now, for the first time in 65 years, we are a net exporter of energy.
But all of you here today have achieved something that everyone said was impossible. You've helped make America the #1 producer of oil and natural gas on planet Earth, by far. We've ended the war in American energy, lowering utility bills, reducing prices at the pump, and eliminating our reliance on hostile foreign suppliers. For the first time, America is now energy independent. Such beautiful words.
And those are certainly beautiful words, Katrina and Mercy. Those ideas of President Trump to keep the American energy boom going are obviously lost on people like Joe Biden and the Democrats, and in fact his pals in the media. Joe Biden would take us backwards, wouldn't he, Mercy?
Yeah, there's no question that Joe Biden is the globalist. I mean, he's the one, and we've talked about this briefly in terms of supporting the Green New Deal that would eliminate hundreds of thousands of jobs. It would impact states like Texas, Pennsylvania, Ohio. In addition to that, let's remember, he would support joining the Paris Climate Accord, something that the president withdrew despite all the critics, despite saying that this would be like the end of the world. And you know what? It just showed that the president said, look, we actually have reduced more carbon emissions than most countries. So we are in a stronger position from an economic and environmental standpoint than a lot of countries. And we're not going to be paying for China. We're not going to be paying for these other countries who, are the polluters and have to be involved in this international accord. So I do think that Biden would take us back. And I think it's really clear to understand that right now, while we are going through this crisis in our country, the reason why we've been able to survive thus far, and it's been tough on our economy, is because the president took such strong positions with our economy, made us fundamentally strong. And part of that making us strong was making us energy independent. And that was definitely one of the priorities of the president as he pushed forward on, like the Keystone Pipeline, the Dakota Pipeline as well, things that we know would produce jobs and also create more opportunities and affordable and reliable energy for Americans.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It was under President Trump's leadership and his policies that the American economy reached such great heights in the first place, and he's clearly the leader to take us back there. Meanwhile, when Joe Biden talks about enacting the Green New Deal right now, what that would do would be to purposefully handicap our own economy when it can least afford it. That's just astounding. Katrina, what in the world is going on?
Well, but is it astounding, Tim? I mean, this is kind of what Democrats do. I mean, we're talking about Joe Biden, somebody that supported NAFTA, somebody that, says China's no big threat, somebody that continues to be on the wrong side. And frankly, you've been in politics for over 40 years and you're still complaining that things aren't right, then the problem is actually in the mirror. So thankfully that we have a president right now, and President Trump, that understands how important energy independence is to our country, and because it's for our national sovereignty and security. And these jobs are vital to our economy. But this is no surprise to many of us who've been watching this downfall. This is one of the reasons why President Trump ran for office. And when you talk about the independent, it is because that keeps his promise to the American people, and he has delivered on so many of these promises. And Tim, I like to say that our president has kept promises he didn't even make. Previous administrations have said they wanted to get some of the things done, and President Trump has gotten them done in one term. He's definitely raised the bar as far as leadership in this country, and I think the American public is paying attention.
Yeah, there's no question that this president wakes up every day and every decision he makes is with the first thing in his mind, which is America first. What's good for America in any given situation? There's no question of that. But what we see now, not just on this energy issue, but in the coronavirus setting that everybody is in right now, what we see is that Americans can see that President Trump is clearly leading the nation in this war against the virus. Yet Joe Biden and the media have decided to fill the role of the opposition in that war. And it's really incredible to see and actually disheartening. And I think one of the chief offenders in the media, as we all know, is Jim Acosta of CNN, who really somehow sees it as his journalistic duty to be part of the resistance. So let's take a look at some of Jim Acosta's antics from just the other day.
Go ahead. Let's give it a shot.
Sir, what do you say to Americans who are upset with you over the way you downplayed this crisis over the last couple of months? We have it very much under control in this country. The coronavirus is very much under control in the USA. It's going to disappear. It's like a miracle. It will disappear. At March 4th, we have a very small number of people in this country infected. March 10th, we're prepared. We're doing a great job with it. It will go away. Just stay calm. It will go away. What do you say to Americans who believe that you got this wrong?
And I do want them to stay calm. And we are doing a great job. If you look at those individual statements, they're all true. Stay calm. It will go away. You know it is going away, and it will go away. And we're going to have a great victory. And it's people like you and CNN that say things like that. It's why people just don't want to listen to CNN anymore. You could ask a normal question. The statements I made are, I want to keep the country calm. I don't want panic in the country. I could cause panic much better than even you. I could do much. I would make you look like a minor league player. But you know what? I don't want to do that. I want to have our country be calm and strong and fight and win. And it will go away. And it is incredible, the job that all of these people are doing, putting them all together, the job that they're doing. I am very proud of the job they're doing, that Mike Pence is doing, that the task force has done, that Honeywell and Procter & Gamble and Mike and all of these people have done. I'm very proud. It's almost a miracle, and it is, the way it's all come together. And instead of asking a nasty, snarky question like that, you should ask a real question.
So as you can see, President Trump knows their game, knows Jim Acosta's game, and he won't let him get away with it. And I think Americans are noticing. And I'll tell you, somebody else who has noticed is ABC News' Jonathan Karl, who is also, incidentally, the president of the White House Correspondents Association. He's got a new book out this week, and he actually references Jim Acosta in that specifically. And this is a quote. We'll have it up on this graphic. This is a quote from John Karl's new book. He says, "The surest way to undermine the credibility of the White House press corps is to behave like the political opposition. Don't give speeches from the White House briefing room." So, Katrina and Mercy, the media obviously can't stand that the president is being effective in communicating directly to the American people during these daily briefings that he's having, telling the country what's going on with the coronavirus. And Katrina, the media just can't stand that, can they?
Well, no. And like the president says, fake news is the enemy of the people. They seem to be stuck in this wormhole of 2016, still trying to convince the American public that Donald Trump shouldn't be president. But newsflash, Donald Trump is your president. And they just can't seem to accept this for whatever reason. But I think mainly it's because they would have to admit that they have lost all control and all power. Because in the past, they would be able to sway public opinion to the point to where they could crown someone or sink someone's candidacy, and they just couldn't redefine Donald Trump in this last election cycle, and they're just stuck there. So instead, they have become this resistance headquarters, and they're behaving like children who didn't get their way. And Tim, like most children today, they put their value on their number of Twitter followers, and their goal is to lead in with all of these statements instead of asking the president a question so that what he says can get to the American people. They just want to go viral on the internet, and they just want to be YouTube stars. And it's very embarrassing, and what a detriment to journalism.
Yeah, it's definitely all about trying to get the video of themselves asking what they believe is a tough question when in fact it's just pontificating, and they're chasing clicks. Mercy, you worked for a long time in the Trump White House. Have you ever seen anything like this, the way that the media is behaving?
Let me think. Yes.
Trick question.
Here's the deal. You have to ask yourself if Jim Acosta is being paid for by the Democrat National Committee, because what they spew on air are the Democrat talking points. And it is so obvious and so transparent that Jim Acosta hates President Trump and hates everything that the president stands for, that he allows his emotions to overtake himself. And so it's really troubling for all of us who have, grew up with CNN, actually back in the day when it actually could deliver fair and pretty balanced news, to now it becoming this aggressive agenda trying to destroy the presidency. We saw this with the Russian hoax. We saw this with impeachment, and so I think it becomes a problem for CNN when you have these types of hosts or these types of so-called journalists who are asking these questions that have no substance. So literally, Jim Acosta's question was, Americans are upset. Okay, maybe some of the Americans he's talked to. I got to tell you, the Americans I'm talking to, they're like, thank God we have President Trump as a leader. And instead of asking, let's talk about the ventilators or the mask or the public-private partnerships that you are working on, Mr. President. I'm not scared of a tough question. God only knows the president's not scared of a tough question. But the reality is that the way Jim Acosta and some of these other very liberal journalists ask these questions, where it's, Peter Alexander with his question of, are you being too positive? Or this other question again of, are you there's Americans who are upset. As we all know, this is a moment of time that we're trying to figure this all out together, this coronavirus. So we're getting answers as we go along. And we need to come together as a country. I'm not saying these journalists, many of them, they're not going to help us, but at least to provide very solid material and information to the Americans.
I'm glad you mentioned all of that, and including the part about the Russia hoax and then the Ukraine nonsense, because when the president was speaking at one of the rallies that we were still having before we all went into the social distancing mode, he referenced those two things, and he talked about the Russia hoax and he talked about the Ukraine nonsense, which led to the sham impeachment and ultimately the acquittal and complete exoneration. And then he talked about how the Democrats and the media are reacting and criticizing to the federal response to the coronavirus issue. And he said that their attempt to create hysteria, that was their new hoax, their attempt to create hysteria. And of course, the media and Democrats immediately jumped on that and shared the same talking points and started trying to lie to people and say that the president had called the virus itself a hoax, which of course he never did. He was talking about the Democrats and media behavior. And just from this very week, here's another one from CNN. This is Don Lemon. Here he is perpetrating that very same lie.
Does he think that we've all forgotten that he called the coronavirus a hoax? Does he think that we've forgotten what he said?
Well, evidently, he does. He's hoping that his audience, Don Lemon, does forget what the president said, because he did not say what Don Lemon said he did. Final thoughts here before we wrap up. Katrina, you first.
Well, they have to do this, Tim. People like Don Lemon, I mean, this is how they evade the actual questions that should be asked. And if the media was doing their job, they would recognize that somebody like Joe Biden, who is likely going to be the Democrat nominee, should be asked an actual question about why on his watch that their administration did not replenish the N95 mask. Let's talk about the inaction on the other side. The media is going to be one-sided. That's why we're here, to set the record straight, to tell the American public exactly what President Trump is doing. And so, and that's what we're going to do. And so what we need to do now is to continue to promote the president's agenda, to make sure the American people know what's actually going on, and not what the media continues to spoon feed the American public in the attempt to continue to try to demonize our president.
Yeah, so there's Don Lemon trying to tell his audience that the president said things that, in fact, the president did not say. And I think it's pretty clear that the media has not learned a single lesson from what they went through in 2016, which led to the president's election in the first place. And here he is on his way to re-election in November 2020. Mercy, some final thoughts.
Well, I think, Tim, you got to put into perspective, does Don Lemon have an audience? Do we know if he does or not? That's a big question.
I don't know.
Okay.
The fact checkers can look after that one. I think it's up in the air.
Actually, I think the only person who gives them ratings is the president. So, I think at the end of the day, we look at the media. We want to work with the media, but there are so many in the media who don't want to work with this president. They have the agenda from day one to try to take him down. And I just think at this point, we are in a moment in time in our country where we got to work together to make sure the information is getting to the American people, because this is about life and death. This is about their health. And it's also about our economy and making sure that we're able to rebuild this economy very strongly. So, our job here is we're going to keep talking straight to the American people. We need you out there, you who support Trump, who love this president, who are part of this movement, to ensure that you are talking about the facts and make that contrast about Joe Biden. It's very critical for the American people to see, and for your friends and colleagues to know, that what Joe Biden is offering is increases in our taxes, making sure that government's more involved in your life, and take away any of the accomplishments that President Trump has been able to deliver thus far. So we got to stand together, get this president reelected, and we're going to keep coming to you and talking to you about the issues that matter as we approach this election.
That's exactly right. It will be our job to try to get the information out into the bloodstream, and folks who are with us online across all of our social media platforms every night, 7 nights a week, we'd ask that they stay involved and get involved and make sure that they understand that there are going to be real differences, very important differences between President Donald Trump and Joe Biden, who appears to be the likely Democrat nominee. So I want to thank you both, Mercedes Schlapp and Katrina Pearson, for joining us. Again, this is part of our 7 nights a week programming here on Trump Online efforts as people are in the social distancing situation because of the coronavirus. There are other ways you can get involved. Please don't forget to text Trump to 88022. And also, if you want to get involved and volunteer for the campaign and get involved in any number of ways, please visit the great website, armyfortrump.com. That's armyfortrump.com. And that has plenty of tools for everyone to get involved. I want to thank you both. I want to thank our audience for joining us. And we will see you again every night this week, and especially Sundays for Trump War Room Weekly. Thanks for being with us.